The Jaguars have an early game on Sunday, and like the old school coaches say, run the football. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, man. What is going on? It is Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap into that location each and every day. Also, slide on over to Amazon Music. That's right, ad-free. You can check out all of our episodes ad-free on Amazon Music. Make sure you check that out. All right, I'm going to let you know where we're going. At the end of the day, I think the Jaguars need to get the ball down the field to their fast weapons, but they need to take those shots after they establish something else. The offensive line, we're going to talk about them in the middle. They must get back on track. And we're hoping that last week wasn't a sign of things to come. And that leads us to the very top where we're going to start the show. To win, we must run. Good old Southern coaches go run the football. And this is what Liam Cohen said they were going to be and what they were going to do. Got away from that a little bit last week against Seattle because Seattle had so many deficiencies in the secondary from an injury and health standpoint that they made it a point to attack what they perceived to be the weakness of the other team instead of just playing into their own strengths on offense. Now, we do know that their strengths on offense was going to be hampered by the fact they were a little bit banged up. They had a rookie center in for Robert Hainsey, Jonah Monheim, and some other guys that were banged up weren't really healthy. And then Walker Little just decided he was just going to have one of the worst days I've seen an offensive lineman have in a while. So a lot of that played into it as well. But you still have to be who they said they were going to be when they took this team over. They're going to break the huddle and they're going to run the football. Sometimes it doesn't work. Seattle wasn't going to just run away from you offensively. I mean, they only scored 20 points, and one of them was on a big chunk play, right? And then another time, I think the Jaguars actually gave them pretty good field position. So it's not like there was this race to 27 points or anything. So there was no reason for the Jaguars to not run the football other than to think that they had a distinct advantage in their passing game, which never came into fruition because the pass rush did their job for the Seahawks. So I just think you got to pay attention to who you are. The old saying, you got to know what you look like without having to look into the mirror every day, and the Jaguars absolutely have to get back to that. I'm hoping for a big game from Travis Etienne. The Rams have a good defense up front. The secondary, once again, is the big question with the Rams. We heard from Travis Rogers from Locked On Rams on our crossover yesterday. Make sure you go back and check that out if you haven't, because it's still there for your listening pleasure to find out what some of the key matchups will be for this game. But for me, I just want to see Travis Etienne have a huge game. And I know they want to get LaQuint Allen and Bashaw Tootin into the game. Bashaw Tootin, good. Get them into the game. But they are complementary players. This is about Travis Etienne, especially when you get down towards the goal line. And I know Tootin has a lot of straight line power and he's real hard to tackle. But Travis Etienne also is a veteran that kind of knows the nooks and crannies and has that good body lean where he's always leaning forward. So I'm looking forward to them trying to get him established. They have to do it. With so much talk about the passing game and Trevor Lawrence and designing all of these explosives that the Jaguars obviously want to do, it still means that you can set that stuff up. I think they were setting a lot of things up last week in the passing game that led to a Brian Thomas Jr. walk-in touchdown on a fake screen. It's cool to set those things up. It's nice to know that you're setting those things up. You're getting the defense used to one thing, and then you all of a sudden do something else. But trickery can't be, and deception can't be the only thing. At some point, you're going to have to just come out of that huddle with the intent, well, we're going to knock somebody out, and we're going to establish this run. Then we're going to get play action going and be able to get that going. Now, I will say this. I had no idea that Britton Strange's absence, he's on IR, would affect the Jaguars the way it does, because he has been a valve not only for Trevor Lawrence when things get tough, He was 6-7 yards waiting to happen in the middle of the field and out in the flat, and then his ability to even break tackles and run after the catch. However, one of the things that they're going to have to do is they're going to have to make up for that, not only in the passing game, but in the running game as well. He's a blocker, a good blocker, and then he doesn't really give you a tell. The tell, what I mean is when he's in the game, you don't know what he's going to do. And y'all know me, because that goes back to that whole move tight end conversation that I have had a lot here on Locked On Jaguars. I don't really like move tight ends because they can't block. And sometimes I guess you can get away with a nice run because you think they won't block, and that means the other team is in nickel and it puts them in a lighter package. But you ain't even got to go through all that when you got a dude that can do both things, and he's not going to be there for the Jaguars. So that means Hunter Long and Johnny Munt, those guys have to step up. The fourth tight end, he's banged up too, Morris. So the Jaguars are going to be a little bit stretched when it comes to going two tight ends and putting those packages together because they don't have the depth right now that will allow them to do that. I expect a lot of number 55 is reporting as eligible, Chuma Edoga, if he doesn't get two penalties in a row like he did last week, to put the Jaguars behind the sticks. So running game, yeah, I'm looking for 60-40 runs. And I know that's a low percentage, and I know that means that I'm trying to put Trevor Lawrence in game manager territory. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I don't want Trevor back there running for his life, putting the ball in harm's way, giving us the Trevor Lawrence experience if he doesn't have to. And the reason why I say that is because I am not too confident that Walker Little is going to be able to block Jared Verse. And he's not the only one. They got another one, Brian Young over there. They got some dudes that can get after the quarterback, even from the defensive tackle position. But Jared Verse can be a game wrecker. He is the Rams version of Trayvon Walker. Might not be as lengthy, but they really, really do play with power the way they're very, very similar in that respect. And I saw Walker Little getting pushed around last week by a linebacker. If you think you're going to need if you think he needed sandbags in his pocket last week to anchor down, well, you better have a whole dump truck full of dirt in London because Jared Verse is going to bring that pressure. So we're going to get to the offensive line and why I believe they have to step up. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. October 10th was World Mental Health Day, and this year we're saying thank you, therapists. Life can be tough on and off the field, and behind millions of mental health journeys are therapists who show up, listen, and help people take a step forward. BetterHelp is shining the spotlight on those connections while also making it simple for you to find support whenever you need it. Yep. As strong as I might seem to y'all, I have had to get to a point where I've needed therapy on multiple occasions, and it absolutely worked for me. It helped me realign some things and prioritize the things that I needed to prioritize in order to move forward. And this World Mental Health Day, join us in celebrating the therapists who've helped millions take a step forward. If you're ready to start your own journey, BetterHelp can help you find the right therapist. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. All right, man, every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love to do it because you can do it right after kickoff, but before that, you can see who's playing, who's not, who's questionable, and then make your informed decision. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Lots of talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line this offseason, and actually a lot of talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars offensive line for like the last 8 years. Most of the talk has been bad. This year in the offseason, the Jaguars initially added 6 new people to that offensive line. It's 5 now because they traded Fred Johnson back to the Philadelphia Eagles. I kind of felt they could have used him a little bit the other day, but that's neither here nor there. They started out the year very good. In fact, Robert Hainsey, who came over to play the center position from Tampa, has really been like the best Jaguars O-lineman this season, along with Anton Harrison and, I'm about to say it, Ezra Cleveland. Y'all know I wasn't a big Ezra Cleveland fan, but turns out the film was right. The PFF numbers and the True Media numbers were correct, and he actually was playing a lot better. Even Bruce Arians mentioned him as a dude. And I should have known when Sean Starrett came in from it. Sean Starrett, it's an interesting thing. Sean Starrett was in Minnesota when they traded Ezra Cleveland. And when you trade Ezra Cleveland for a 6th-round pick, and then Liam Cohen is in Tampa when Robert Hainsey is benched, one of the things I should have realized when they signed Robert Hainsey, and everybody's like, why are you signing a guy that got benched, was that Sean Starrett, the same thing, just because he got traded out of Minnesota does not mean that Starrett didn't like him. He was the assistant offensive line coach. He probably had no idea or no input or whether that happened or not. In fact, the offensive line coach and the head coach and then the GM, and sometimes teams make those decisions based on economics. And I think with Hainsey, that's what it was. And I also believe, because I'm going to tell you right now, Graham Barton ain't playing center right now. No. At last I checked, Brad Bredesen was. So the dude that everyone said that they chose over Robert Hainsey, I think he's gone back to guard down there. So there was this assumption that, okay, and it was short-sighted on my behalf, that when they brought in Sean Starrett, okay, he was the assistant O-line coach at the place where they just jettisoned off this starting guard for a 6th-round pick. Look, you can say what you want to say about Trent. The fact that this has worked out to the point where Ezra Cleveland is playing as well as he is, and they have him on their team at the number that he's playing with, the way he's playing, he is outperforming that. So those 3 guys have been really, really good. I think Pat McCary gives you a lot of versatility. He's better when he's not banged up like most people, because he ain't the biggest, most physical guy in the world, but he's a real, real good technician who knows how to move his feet and really uses leverage and gets out in space. And that's one of the things that all of these linemen do. They were blocking downfield. They were running downfield, getting to that 2nd, sometimes even that 3rd level. And they were bowling ball guys over. The one dude that kind of started out pretty good, in fact, in training camp, he was the one that was singled out by Sean Starrett as doing really, really well. It wasn't Anton Harrison. It was Walker Little. Well, now the games have been played, right? So Walker kind of plays okay early and holds off people and does a pretty good job. And we're like, okay, we can deal with that. Last week, but not the case. Walker Little got ragdolled. He got Peter-rolled, got manhandled on that field last week against Seattle. So things can happen when it comes to that, right? Teams will see one bad game and see the things that you struggled with. And now I watch Animal Planet a lot. Yeah. I saw a hyena. His leg was broken or something, and he was dragging it around. And then the lion saw him and said, "Look at that little hurt one right there." And then they just circle the wagons and they want to go get that one that he's banged up. And everybody's kind of surrounding him, trying to protect him. They're like, "No, we can see you." And that's what happens in football. Teams watch this tape. And when teams watch the tape, there may be a player that's better than Boy Mafe, or in any of those dudes, the linebacker that knocked him out of the way. I can't even remember who it was. And they're like, if he did that to him, what are you going to do? Little had actually played pretty decent against Daniil Hunter and those guys early this season. And Anderson, the duo in Houston. And I was thinking like, okay, this is optimistic. After a game like last week, it could really have people licking their chops. So here's what I suggest. Don't put him in a whole bunch of obvious pass situations where you don't have a good chipping tight end. And then even last week, Liam Cohen said, chipping ain't going to help you when they're slanting, when they're stunting inside. Everybody's going inside. What is a chip going to do? For instance, if you're the left tackle and you got help on the outside with a chip, well, the defensive end is going where your help isn't. He's going to the inside. So that dude's just out there for no reason. He's got to find somebody to hit now, right? Walker Little, we're going to have to keep an eye on this one. He might make them have to get rid of the ball quickly every time and throw screens. He might make them really have to use an extra back like LaQuint Allen to come into the game. That might be where you get more help from than a regular chip. But then when you do that, that takes someone else out of the route. That takes your safety valve off. That takes the guy that can take a 1st and 10 and at least give you a 2nd and 6 because he can catch the ball and get a body lean and make somebody miss and get those 4 yards. So now that means you have to make a better throw down the field. The best weapon the Jaguars could absolutely have is a running game, because the running game keeps all of those guys at home. The running game makes people, when they start that stunting and twisting and you catch them in it, and now they're not reading and reacting. They're going where they're supposed to go. And now you get loose in the running game. Now it makes them slow that action down a little bit and give you a little bit of a gap and hold and a wait and see. And when that's the case, that little bit of hesitation that you cause with those linemen could be the difference in Trevor Lawrence going back, setting his feet, and then they realize, oh, he's throwing it. Well, now the linebackers are trying to get back into their windows. And now the linemen are like, okay, so he's not going to run it, so let's go. By that time, Trevor can hit that back foot, come up, go through his progressions, and deliver the ball down the field. And the Jaguars actually have wide receivers that are really, really good after the catch, especially Travis Hunter. So the thing is set it all up with the run. I know the weakness of the Rams, the perceived weakness of the Rams is the secondary, but that's the stuff that got you in trouble last week. And I'm talking, to me, the onus is on the offense. The defense is going to do what the defense does. Whether Puka Nacua plays or not, it's a big, significant deal, but you still got to deal with Devontae Adams, and that's a very hard thing to do, right? You still got to deal with Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams likes to lay the ball down. You can knock the ball loose. So all of those things. But the main thing is I'm putting this on the offense. To me, the offense has not played as well as the defense this year. And one of the things that they have to do is get out of their own way. They got to get out of their own way, man, and keep the down and distance situations at a low, because that's going to help them if they can establish the run. They're not going to give up a ton of points as long as they don't turn the ball over. They might even get a turnover. They have to really, really establish the run first, because there's something I need them to be able to do. I need them to take shots and get chunk plays and get Travis Hunter going and get Brian Thomas Jr. going, continuing to go in the right direction. We'll discuss all of that in just a second here in the third and final segment for Friday edition of Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored, brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes, well, they sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how we craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like nothing but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's show sponsored and brought to you by RESURGE. All right, fellas, listen, man. I'm going to let you know. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence. That's what you get, baby. Pure confidence. And if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet RESURGE Go Long. Listen, man, that's exactly where RESURGE Go Long comes in. This is not just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to RUGIET.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off your first order. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com. Promo code Locked On NFL. Make sure you use our code so they know that we're the ones that sent you. All right, moving and grooving here on the third and final segment. Y'all make sure you set your alarms now for two things. I'll tell you about Locked On NFL in just a second, or as we end the show. You better make sure you set this alarm for that game. I expect a lot of 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. brunches and breakfasts. I really want to know, y'all are really going to be tailgating and eating chicken wings at 8 o'clock in the morning and hamburgers and hot dogs? I don't know how you tailgate for a game that comes on at 9:30. I guess we're going to find out. I would love for people. In fact, y'all hit me up on social media all the time. I have a very, very interactive audience, especially here locally with Jaguar fans. If you're going to be barbecuing at 7 o'clock in the morning and eating burgers and dogs and brats and all whatever it is, your brisket, please show it to me so I can tell you how much of a psycho you are to be eating that stuff. And I'm only saying this, look, I used to do it too, but I can't do that kind of stuff anymore. You know, when you get 56, you get a little older, you have a little challenges. It's just certain stuff you can't do at certain times of the day. Well, that's one of them. You can't be eating that stuff. I want to. I really want to do it because I want to live vicariously through y'all. I'm going to be absolutely jealous. So y'all tailgating and cooking out 6:30 in the morning, you smoking brisket, getting yourself ready for this game. You make sure that you send me all of those pictures and tweets and say, we getting it in. I'm gonna salute you because my stomach's gonna be hurting watching you do it and thinking about it. But nevertheless, it's a very, very early game. I don't anticipate the time difference or anything like that being an issue. Both teams are going to have to deal with it. You know, people can say, well, the Jaguars do it all the time. Well, this ain't the same Jaguar team. None of these coaches, except Robert Angulo, and then several of the players are new, a bunch of them. So especially the guys, the key guys. So it probably is going to be a little bit of a home cooking for the Jaguars. There is technically a home game, and then the Jaguars do have a nice following in London because they've been over there so much. So I'm looking forward to it. I want to see chunk plays and exciting football. I want to see them get Dami Brown and Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr. down the field in one-on-one matchups. But I don't want to see that at the behest of them losing their identity like they did last week. I don't want it to seem forced, and I don't want it to put Trevor Lawrence in danger because you got Walker Little looking like a turnstile over there and Jarrett Verse right in front of him. So there's a balance, man. You want to be that way, and a lot of people are saying the Jaguars don't throw the ball down the field. I did a report from training camp where it wasn't Trevor. It was a quarterback who ain't even here anymore, but during the 11-on-11 phase in training camp, I heard Liam Cohen imploring the quarterback, throw it down the field, because they were checking down and the little 6-7 yard passes was there, and that's cool. But I do believe, because I heard that and I know where he comes from and how they have always played, and I saw him last year, those intermediate passes down the field, these things should be easy. This offense allows those throws to be very, very easy. And that's why they went out and got people that could win and that have a better catch radius than the dudes that were here last year. I know that's what they want to do. I get it. But until they get all of the pieces and parts here, you can't force it if they're not ready for it. So right now, I think the Jaguars are going to have to play to the strengths of this team. And the strength of this team, because the characteristic and the identity that they have is grit. You don't get grit by throwing the ball around the field. You get grit by running the football and playing tough defense and special teams and making kicks. We'll mention that too. I don't know what's been going on with these kicks, man, but I'm just sitting there looking like when Cam comes out there these days, and this is something I did not expect, this is what I go through. Yeah, I go through my heart. It's about to beat out of my chest, right? And I'm sitting there. When he makes them these days, I'm so surprised that what a routine play, and I'm going to sit here and be clapping and being all happy about him actually making a pick. I'm gonna tell you something, man. They have to make those kicks. They're not good enough yet. We did our tiers on Locked On Jaguars, and I told you, it's any given Sunday. They're real close to being. I was going to say 5-0, but 5-1. They weren't really, in my opinion, they weren't that close to winning that game against Seattle. They just got manhandled. And when you get manhandled, even though it was a one-score game, you gave up 7 sacks, dude. You weren't really that close. You couldn't sack their quarterback. I think they got to him one time, and your quarterback is running for his life. And he played one of the best games I've ever seen him play because he was under so much pressure and he didn't let it get to him. So just kind of put all of that stuff together. One thing that they can do is have limited possessions. This is what I saw the 49ers do to the Rams. And I mentioned that to Travis Rogers on the crossover on Thursday. There were limited possessions in the game. That you do that by ball control. I'm not gonna count touchdowns and field goals first. The thing that I'm gonna count first for the Jaguars are first downs. First downs are important. That's why the kicking game is so important, because if you put X amount of first downs into your breadbasket, that means you're getting closer. That means your field position. Punting affects all of that. First downs. I know they actually have it as a stat, but on the actual scoreboard where the score says this team is winning by this much, first downs aren't there. But that's how you get to it. First downs to me are to touchdowns what pressures are to sacks. You can't do one thing without the other unless you hit a chunk play. Get away from trying to get chunk plays at the beginning of the game. Set all of that stuff up and then hit those plays later, especially when if you can get a lead, limit possessions, have a one-score game or by a touchdown, and then you have the ball and they get desperate and they got to start doing stuff. That is when I think you can reach up and take your shot. Sort of like the Jags did when they played Kansas City. Sort of like the Jags did when who was that played? It was a tie game. Was it? I think it was the Texans when Brian Thomas Jr. caught the crosser and ran all the way down the field, even after struggling for all game. Yeah, you have to be able to run the football, get first downs, those 3 and outs early in the game. What I would do if I was the Jaguars, I promise, I would defer and not kick. I know that they took the ball last week, and that was a disaster because they actually lost yards, and then they started losing the field position battle right away with Seattle. I kick it because I want all of that mojo in the second half. I want to get the ball coming out of the second half and try to have the ball going into halftime and maybe get you some cheap points. It's going to be very, very important, though, that they have to earn the right to get to the point where they take those shots. And the way you earn the right to do that is by running the football, controlling the game, and then making the Rams more desperate and keeping them off the field. You got to make the pass rush stay honest. The way you do that is to keep them on their heels a little bit, wear them down, run the ball, pass when they don't expect it, and I think the Jaguars will be fine. I'm going to pick the Jags to win this game. I said on the crossover it's going to be close and it'll be a one-score game. I'm going to pick the Jaguars to pull this one off and beat the Rams. Sure enough, you'll hear about it on Monday morning from Tyler Rowland because he'll wake you up like a double shot of espresso early in the morning on Locked On NFL, and I'll slide through the barbershop with the use of local experts. We both have our finger on the pulse of this league because we use local people from the Locked On Network. Just like if I wasn't doing the show, they'd use me because I'm Locked On Jaguars. I will be here immediately after the game. So I guess that's about 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon with a post-game show to give you my immediate response to what we just saw. I'll also give you a little sneak preview, a little bit of a short heading into the action to tell you what to watch out for. We'll use any information about Robert Hainsey. We'll mainly discuss that there. And then an instant reaction right after the game before we actually record the post-game show. All of that content coming from you, the Jaguars, maybe across the pond, but I'm right here in my office on North Main Street, and I will give it to you just like I always do. Make sure you tap into Locked On Jaguars, man. We don't take you for granted, dog. We appreciate you joining us, and we thank you for being here with us every day because it is your team every day. See you.